Thanks, guys, for coming. We're about to get started, just letting people log in. I'll give it about 30 more seconds. You should see in your chat, we just posted, if you have any comments or questions, which we hope to hear from you during this session, if you do, please post them in either one. The Q&A or the chat should be available on your side. We'd love to hear from you, and we'll try to address any questions that come up through the event as we move through our talking points. If there's any questions that come up that we don't have time to fully answer, then we'll follow up after this event. We always provide the slide deck and then a digest of our Q&A after our webinar. And we're still kind of ticking up, but I think I'm going to get started. Thank you again. So this is our ProLinkHFA webinar series that we host every month. Today's title is a game-changing enhancement to ProLink data views. So that's what we're going to be discussing today, which I'm really excited about. We have a full agenda. This is going to be packed in our 45-minute session. First, general information that I'll present, some business kind of teeing up the conversation I'll also present today. Talk about our ProLinkHFA user group, because this is a great representation of some of the work that we do that comes out of user group that's really kind of defined and led by our user group. Then we will hand it off to WHEDA in Florida to discuss some of the use cases that they envision for this new feature. And then Kelly is going to be demoing the feature for us at the end. So moving forward, I am Bree Kreuter. I'm the Executive VP for ProLink Solutions, and I'm joined by Kelly Encinias, who's our HFA Senior Product Manager for ProLink HFA. Susan Parks is our data manager for Florida Housing, and we work with Susan on a regular basis. She's one of our main contacts with Florida Housing, as well as Danny Escuder, who is the IT manager for WHEDA, for Wisconsin Housing. So thank you guys for participating with us. We really do appreciate it. Going into just a quick general information, making sure you guys kind of know where you're at and what these events are, the purpose of these events. So we share industry topics kind of across the board. Some of them are related. Our last quarter was really focused on technology implementations and how to manage and get through that Herculean effort that it takes to implement something like ProLink Solutions at the very forefront, and then also managing through change and adoption improvement with a system internally. So that was kind of our focus over the first quarter of this year. Then we switched into more of a reporting solutions and workflow topic theme for the quarter. So that's what we've been focusing on in the last two webinars that we've been hosting. And then our last topic, our third quarter, is going to focus on compliance updates and best practices, which will be August through October. So I'm looking forward to continuing the reporting one. We have this session, which is our second one, and then we have one more in July that we'll be talking about reporting on. About 45 minutes of discussion, just really beneficial, I think, for both ProLink HFA users. You're going to hear about things that you might not know are available in the system in these webinars, as well as people who might not be using ProLink today, kind of get glimpses into the way that we operate and share information and connect with the industry, try to meet those needs as they evolve over time. So a little bit about ProLink, if you're not so familiar with us. We have been in the affordable housing industry for pushing 25 years, I think, at this point, or at least we've been in existence for 25 years, probably close to 20 in the affordable industry, always really participating in the real estate finance industry since our inception, and really always leading in developing systems that were built to manage portfolios on a holistic level, like an end-to-end level, So that's still what we do today for our agency clients, as well as investors and syndicators in affordable housing, also providing some services and technology for the developer community as well, which has originated out of the systems that we've built for our agencies, syndicators, and investors. So our team, we're a technology company. We have a lot of tenure built into ProLink in this business. Kelly's a representative of that for sure. And we also have a few employees that come from the affordable housing, the business side of the industry, which really helps us to meet the needs of our clients. So quickly, just talking about some of the things that ProLink does on a regular basis. So first of all, our client reach, we have 17 housing finance agencies on ProLink with 2 supportive services agencies using ProLinkHFA. We also support 5 syndicator investor leaders in the industry. We are highly involved with NCSHA, looking forward to seeing a lot of you in Seattle, and I guess that's next week. So see you there pretty soon. And then we also host the NAMA XML standards group that actually is kind of facilitated through ProQuorum, which is a platform that we offer for collaboration. So we're highly involved with the NAMA standards group. From an industry perspective, we really kicked up our industry education, sharing of ideas through our webinar series that started as a result of going remote a few years ago, at least more remote in the way that we conduct our business. So we have our ProLinkHFA webinar. We actually just started a monthly developer and property manager geared webinar that is occurring on a monthly basis as well. And then we are offering occasional webinars focused to support training needs for your partners and clients. So we offered an XML webinar a few months back geared towards your partners who are logging into ProLink and submitting tenant events through that XML file uploaded to ProQuorum. So we do offer those special events throughout the year as well. And then we have an annual ProLink Tech Live conference that we offer typically in November, open to everyone, but really geared towards training for our user group. So we look forward to seeing you there. From a leadership perspective, we're always looking to partner and kind of bring the best of industry to affordable housing. So we use a lot of the Amazon Web Services tools that's kind of in our toolbox, as well as DocuSign is available in one of our products. And we continue to explore and leverage tools outside of ProLink to really enhance and make sure that our clients get the most out of the tools at our disposal. So here's just a quick picture of that same client base that I spoke to earlier on our agency side. So looking forward to working with more of you in the future. And then quick view also of just how ProLinkHFA kind of connects, how this whole ecosystem we've built over the years works together, with ProLinkHFA representing our back-end database. It's our back office database where your agency staff is working and managing your data, your kind of source of record. And then ProQuorum started as a portal offering our clients, our agencies, the ability to collaborate and receive and send information to external parties securely. And it has really kind of grown into a platform of affordable housing users. I think there's over 20,000 users on ProQuorum today, between property managers and developers and agency staff and everybody who's kind of involved in that process. So we continue to evolve there, but really at its core, it's still meant to provide a place for collaboration, secure collaboration between our clients and their partners. And then here's just a quick view of the core modules in ProLinkHFA. So we have our multifamily development and bond financing module and our asset management and compliance modules. So that's kind of the ProLinkHFA core, plus our single family development module. And then a few others that we have mentioned here, kind of rounding out the clients that we represent with supportive services, REO, and then Budget Pro for construction draw management. So going into our business presentation now. So I'm excited about this webinar because we don't often, I think, take the opportunity to highlight our user group. And I'm excited to do that today because the feature we're discussing is something that was nominated by the user group and voted, and it actually received, I think, more votes than any other feature, at least in the quarter it was voted for, and probably a contender for the history of the user group. So I want to give a little bit of background as to what user group is quickly so that you understand the concept. So ProLink invests in new features and enhancements and necessary updates every year. We have a fund that we reserve for those things. And user group is something that we started a number of years ago to help us prioritize some of those decisions and have our users guide the way that we put in that investment. So some of it is absolutely like we need to make updates. We need to continue to, from a technical perspective, provide the best in class technology for the affordable housing industry. But then there's plenty to still work with that we want our input from our clients to be able to prioritize. There's so many ideas out there. We really want their involvement in deciding what's most important, what's people most concerned with, what's going to really help our client base get more out of the system and enjoy it more than they are currently. So that's really the power of user group, is getting that input and sharing of ideas and collaboration, and also helps with encouraging our users to implement and use the software in a similar capacity. So it kind of helps uniformly get people on the same page with how they are using ProLinkHFA, which then helps with future features being on the same page with how those should be developed, as well as independent change requests and special projects we do independently with our clients. They have that in the back of their mind too. I think we all kind of work with that in the back of our mind, which helps us leverage and not kind of step on toes as we're building more technology over time. It's something that we don't run into each other over. We're going to use it in a holistic way, which I think is one of the benefits of an off-the-shelf product like ProLinkHFA. So originally started in 2014, that user group, and has continued and evolved over time. It's pretty big now from the small group it was originally. And the custom data views enhancement, the one that we're talking about today, was submitted by Danny, who's on representing WHEDA originally. So he developed that business case with his team and submitted it for review, which eventually led into the voting cycle for user group. Florida Housing separately has been we've been working with them to identify some resolutions and solutions to reporting needs that they have. And we felt that this feature was really going to help support some of the things that they need to improve their reporting. So that is why we've asked them to join us today. Before we kick it off into their presentations, data views is something that I just wanted to make sure we talked about briefly. There's a few concepts in here. If you're not a user of ProLinkHFA or rarely go into the system, it's important to understand what they are. So data views are basically allow you to look at data by screen in a list format within ProLinkHFA. And it will also allow you to view related information that's available within that module. So our clients use this for ad hoc reporting and quick analysis. Like if someone emails you and asks you to look something up, you have to do something by the end of the day. Data views can be really helpful for that. Also can help with tracking and like organization of work. Well, the example we had here was like putting together inspection records. You could do that at the beginning of the year and then use data views to track the status and progress of those inspections over the course of that year. So there's a number of ways that data views do support our clients. User-defined fields, or UDFs, is another thing you'll see us talk about here. That's a way to quickly, on our client side, us not involved at all, add additional fields to ProLinkHFA. So if you find yourselves in need of a new field, new information to track that we don't offer as a core field in ProLink HFA, you can add those yourselves, and that immediately becomes available to you on the screen where UDFs are located, and then also available in data views and also available in Smart Docs to populate that data. So, and then the goal, so what is this custom data views feature? This enhancement that was voted through allows you to write custom SQL statements across the entire ProLink HFA database in order to combine multiple data views, and it's accessible within the admin panel of ProLink HFA. So once these queries are written, you will then view those data views right in ProLink HFA. So it allows you to really create any report you might need, or use those data, the data views, the new data view available in ProLink HFA, which is then available in your backup database to help with reporting that you might be doing custom outside of ProLink HFA. So there's a number of use cases that we already have in mind, and I'm sure will continue to evolve over the months coming. The last thing I'll say about this is currently in UAT. So this is like hot off the press functionality, voted by user group. We're obviously very excited about it because we're demoing it when it's still in UAT right now. So the data that we are presenting for by means of example is UAT data. It's not live data. So you might see some discrepancies here and there because of that. And we're really in the process right now of sharing, and we want to get our clients excited and reaching out to us about taking advantage of this because there's potential. There's a lot of potentials in using this, and we look forward to sharing more of the retrospect and results as we move forward with this feature as part of our production environment. So with that, Danny, I'm going to hand it over to you to kind of share some of the examples that WHEDA has in mind.
Great, thank you, Bree. Yeah, so kind of want to talk about some of the benefits that WHEDA was looking for that led us to want to submit this feature idea to the user group. And so that really was that data views are a powerful way to see your data, but we were often limited where we wanted to get some data that's in one data view and some data that's in a different data view, and we can't get them together in one report. So when we were implementing ProLink, we were often faced with a scenario where if we want to get exactly the report that our business wants, we would need to do two data views and then like export them and maybe do like a VLOOKUP or something to like combine them in Excel or something extra, or to use a separate custom reporting tool. Here in Wisconsin, we use Crystal Reports to create a separate report, right, using our nightly backup database. And as you can see here, we have over 800 reports at WHEDA. About 200 of those are scheduled ones that are run regularly. So that will also tell you there's a good number of just ad hoc, like one-off reports that we've created over time. So we have a lot, and we'd like to, reduce the need of creating even more if we don't need to. If we're reporting on data that's all coming from ProLink, ProLink HFA, we should ideally be able to use a built-in reporting tool instead of having to use something separate. Obviously, if it's a report with data needs across multiple systems, then that's maybe where a custom reporting tool can be more powerful. So we do believe that this change will allow us to create custom data views where otherwise we would have had to do something that takes more time to create and also to maintain. But beyond that too, I think it's better customer experience as well, right? So we can set up a custom data view with a lot of columns available. And then we've given our business unit counterparts access to customize data views themselves. So here in IT, we can create that custom data views. And if they want to make a tweak of like, oh, I want to add a column, I want to remove a column, I want to change the order of columns, if they want to do some minor changes, that is something they can do themselves. If we gave them a Crystal report, they don't have permission in Crystal reports, so they would have to come back to my team with a help desk ticket and request us just to make a minor little tweak. So this gives them a bit more power on their end to do those little tweaks and customizations. And also there is a way where we can now get real-time data in the data views. Every time we use our Crystal Report solution, it's against the nightly backup database. So it's always at least a day old. With this solution, it can now be real-time data. So now I'll walk through a couple specific scenarios where we see ourselves using this. So one is whenever we want to add any user-defined field into a data view. So as kind of I mentioned earlier, we have data in different data views, but if you want to get all of it together in one, it previously wasn't possible. So Wisconsin, like I know many of you other current customers use a lot of user-defined fields and create a lot. We here at WHEDA have created a bunch of UDFs that are specifically in tax credit deals, and then also on the portfolio property level. And we wanted to create one data view that had access to see the UDFs from both of those different modules. And we were not able to combine them together. What we're really trying to do here is to get one single table or view of all the different unique identifiers for a project. So that's from the tax credit deal, when it was like in the application stages, all the way through if it's in compliance at the property level and monitoring. So this new ability will now allow us to combine UDFs from both of those different modules. I have some screenshots here. You can see the closest ones, which is the TCA properties. That's a data view that's under TCA deals properties. So that one is meant to combine a bunch of data from tax credit deals and properties together into one, but it's limited. It doesn't have all of the UDFs, and specifically we're looking for this master ID field that's on the portfolio property UDF, which otherwise wasn't available to combine with tax credit deal data. So now it should be. Another example, and this is one that we've tested out in UAT already, but there's often scenarios where we want to combine data from data view into one row. So I understand the screenshots here are a bit small, but what you're seeing here is one property, one project for us, but it has a lot of different rows because if some of the different rows are like in the first one, it's by number of bedrooms, right? So you'll see several that are like 0 bedrooms and then 1 bedrooms, and it's a lot of different rows. In some instances, duplicating data for the single project. What we want to do is basically be able to see a bunch of data. In this example, we want to see how many units of each bedroom type and the CMI percentage for a property in one row, right? And then we can eventually see a lot of different, properties in multiple rows, where what is now in rows will then instead be in columns, basically. And so what you're seeing here is the TCA unit mix and the TCA unit mix summary, which are helpful and does display this information, but not necessarily the way we'd like to see it. So we played around with this in UAT. And on the next slide, you'll see a screenshot where we were able to do this. So here in this new custom data view we created, you'll see there's just one project on one row, and there's a ton of different columns. Again, in UAT, we're still playing around with it, but if you were to scroll to the right, there's even a lot more columns that we were able to add that's from multiple different areas that would have been from multiple different data views. So not just combining data, but then even organizing and grouping it the way that we would prefer to see it. And then the last example I'll share is a bit more of a technical one here, but what I really like about this new functionality is that it also creates custom database views. So we prefer to write custom SQL outside of ProLink so that we can link primary keys to foreign keys to join data sets. It might be a bit more technical to a lot of folks here, but it's sometimes easier just to write the coding and the SQL code out in a tool designed for that purpose. And then also, we have a lot of existing reports right now. So in some instances, we have a report that has pretty much everything we need, except in this example, we have a tenant events history data view. And that data view shows the property county, but we want to see the building county. So the building county is critical, as many of you may know, for because that's where the income and rent limits come from. And for scattered site projects where the buildings might be in different counties, that becomes an issue to use just the property county. So what we wanted to do was update an existing crystal report that we had from our previous system, and then be able to use it for ProLink data. But when we look at the data view associated, the database view associated to this tenant events history data view, it has the wrong county. So basically, what we're able to do is create a custom database view in ProLink, which will then create a new database view in our nightly backup database. So now we can take our crystal report that we have, and that's pointed now at our nightly backup of our production environment that we get from ProLink, and we can now see and have the building county available instead of property county. So instead of needing to write a whole new report or move it all to data views, we're able to just essentially tweak one data field by adding it ourselves. I think if we wanted to create this custom database view before this functionality, we would have definitely needed to reach out to ProLink and get some support. Whereas now we have the ability to make these types of changes ourselves.
Danny, can I ask a question? You know, you guys are doing an amazing amount of reporting, like you've talked about, you know, like with crystal reports and whatnot. Do you have any sense right now of if or how much of that you may convert just to custom data views in ProLinkHFA, whereby you don't have to support that crystal report anymore? Do you have any sense of that right now?
Yeah, so that's a tricky question. So I would say, fortunately, Wisconsin's still implementing right now. So anytime we're tasked with a new report, we're always going to look to see, can we do it with a data view first? And that's what we were doing before, but there were more instances where we couldn't do it with a data view. Now we can do a lot more. So I think where possible, we will always use the data view instead of a crystal report. If there's things over the last couple of years that we've been implementing that we already created a crystal report, I don't know that we'll necessarily take the time or effort to go through and change something that we already have that's already working. But I think that, you know, what otherwise may have been 100 or so reports, or again, those one-off reports may not, you know, have to come that direction. So it's a significant quantity.
Awesome, thank you.
Sure.
All right, Susan, so we'll go ahead and keep going with some of your thoughts here.
Great.
Go ahead.
Thank you both. So we really want to make sure that the data views present the best information to our users, because we want them to be self-sufficient. We'd like it, you know, we've had a lot of uptake in business users creating their own reports, but we found that we were challenged by needing to combine different schemas. So to combine tax credit data with dev deal data. And I'm very excited about this, the possibilities of this new tool. I'm a little different than Danny. I am more of a facilitator between the business units and the IT folks. So I know enough to be dangerous in both realms. Not enough to do SQL on my own, but enough to guide our IT folks. So I was asked to provide an example of one of the challenges that we face, which is producing our annual report. And if you would go ahead and go to the next slide. So these are two examples of, we put together a ridiculous amount of data for our annual report every year. And the business users and the policy folks want to be able to see what's essentially a giant table of all the tax credit and dev deal information on one line. And so we're kind of like Danny, we want to make, we want to make one line per property with all the different funding sources and all the different restrictions. And so the way I've done this in the past is so this is an example of the tax credit data view. And then the next one is an example. And again, like Danny said, these are tiny, I know, so not very easy to see, but an example of the dev deal. And what we have been doing is to take those, mash them together, and then make a pivot of all that information. So if you go to the next screen, so you can see that we use pivots to combine information about different funding types and the restrictions to get information. And you see there, one of the things that Danny was talking about was you get multiple lines for the different kinds of funding types or the different restriction categories. And the pivot, and ideally this new tool, will give us the ability to make many columns for restrictions, for instance, that will allow us to present those restrictions just on one line. So once we make those pivots, then the ultimate result is this annual report table, which if you'll go on to the next screen, this doesn't even begin to include all the information that we actually report. There's about twice as much on the spreadsheet. But what we're excited about is that we will hopefully be able to customize a data view for this, which will give us both the dev and the TCA information on one line for each property. And then to that, we hope to be able to add the restrictions or the area median income for the number of units for each property. So as an example, a proof of concept, one of the things that ProLink helped us with was to come up with a way. When I was sort of thinking about things I have problems with reporting on, the two things that came up for me were the area median income of units, and then also we have a standard set of entities that we expect to see populated on each property. And I can look at each property individually to see that all of those people are included, or I can make a report that has, in our case, 5 lines, one for the credit underwriter and the owner and the monitoring agent and so on and so forth. But ProLink helped us with a proof of concept. If you will go ahead and these are our restrictions, the dev and TCA restrictions. But what ProLink created for us was a custom query. That's not really the right word for it, is it? It's a SQL query that gives us the ability to see both the restrictions and the entities for a property. So if you could scroll down to, not the next one. I'm sorry, I'm going too fast, I can tell. But so all of this data was captured from different data views in ProLink. And so you can see that I have the entities that I want associated with the development. And right now, because this is a proof of concept, these are the percentages, the percentage of total units that are restricted at a particular area median income. But you can see that we can get there. I'm very hopeful about, I just have to get my SQL guy busy. But I'm very hopeful about this tool. So, and I guess one of the things I'm hoping for with this is that we can help each other solve these problems, so that when one of us makes a particularly nice SQL query that gives the restrictions, we can make it available to other folks and vice versa. So
Awesome.
that's.
Thank you, Susan. And Danny, thank you very much for that. Kelly, I'm going to hand it right off to you because I know you have lots to show.
Okie dokie. Really quick, Susan, I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit. Do you have a feeling potentially of kind of like how much time do you have to devote today to that annual review reporting that you're doing? And do you have a sense of maybe a reduction of time toward that effort?
So I think, so I spend a ridiculous amount of time on that report, like the better part of 6 weeks.
Okay.
It's painful. Some of that is back and forth, but a lot of it is just putting it together in preparation. And I think that the first time might be painful. Getting the SQL query to reflect exactly what we want to have in the report. But I really envision that this is going to take our time down considerably. And the other thing that excites me about it is that our users have not had a way to verify that the information, that what they've provided is missing some part of the information. And being able to produce this report, I think, will give better access to the business users to be able to say, oh, I'm missing the total development cost, or, oh, my total units don't add up to the units that I have restricted, or, whatever it might be. So I'm very hopeful about, I do think it will be a bit painful initially, but I think that it's going to make it better over the long haul.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. And I that Susan's comment kind of circles back around to a question that we got in the Q&A, and that was, does this require SQL knowledge to utilize this functionality? And it really does. You not that you necessarily have to have the entire database memorized, but it is going to require some SQL knowledge to really build out these custom data views that you're going to want to be using in the system. So yes, getting started it's going to take a little bit of ramp up, and it is going to take some SQL knowledge. And as we kind of go in here today into this demo, you're going to kind of be able to see sort of the access level that you're going to need to have as well as a user in the system. So let's go ahead and dive in. Bree, will you confirm that you can see my screen? Okay, I'm in UAT environment here. So I'm in our ProLink's demonstration UAT environment, which is exactly like everybody else's of my customers' UAT environment. I will tell you that there is a build going out to UAT today, and my demo environment has the build at this point. Some of yours might not quite be there yet, just so that you know that. But again, we are in the UAT environment, and where I am positioned here is within our data views panel within the system. And then I've actually clicked on the custom data views menu option within the data view panel. And so I want to start out with showing everybody really in the system, what does it look like when, myself or somebody in my IT team or my ProLink administrator creates a custom data view for me. Like, how do I get to it? How do I use it? Where is it? What does it do, right? So you can see when I click on this custom data views link, I get a listing of the data views that have been created within the system. And you can see I've got a WHEDA example here, and I've got a Florida example here. And we can look at those a little bit in detail here in a minute. But again, gives me a listing of the custom data views that exist in my system right now, okay? Just like we see with other, data views throughout, the system, I can click on a particular data view itself, and then, the system takes me into my data view. Now, at this point, I'm within my Dev Deals with UDF custom data view. And so now I've got the functionality within this custom data view that I have in my regular everyday data views, meaning, I can click on a column header to sort. I can turn on my in-grid filtering and do some deeper filtering in my data view. I can use my view manager to create, even a more customized view, right, of what has been created for me in this custom view. I've got everything in this one, but all those types of built-in functionalities that exist today are available within these custom data views. One thing that I do want to point out that is different about custom data views is that I do not have click-through ability like I do in regular data views. Okay, if I were to hop into like a Dev Deals data view, I can click through into a deal that I see in the data view. Like if I do lakefront townhomes, I click, it's going to take me to my deal overview. Okay, I don't have that ability in my custom data views, and there's a reason for that. So you can see I came to that deal overview. I'm going to come back into my custom data views. The reason I don't have that click-through capability is because I could have a custom data view, and I might use Danny's deal summary as an example when we get to it, but I could have a custom data view that joins together, like 10 or 12 or 14 different actual tables behind the scenes. So we don't have a way right now for you to specify where that click through would take you to. Okay, so day one, no click through. That I imagine that could be an enhancement going forward. But as of today, it's purely reporting that you're getting inside these custom data views, right? You've still got filtering, sorting, grouping. You can do some in grouping and all of those types of things, just no click through at this point in time. Okay. And I know I have a request to do a little sample, and I'll get into that here in just a minute. I've got a little example that we can do to show it. And actually, maybe we'll just head into it now because it's easy. So that kind of shows us, right? That's our list of custom data views that I have existing. I can access them. They look like normal data views once I click into one. So let's go in now and look at, gosh, how do I create one of these things? How do I get one of these things into existence? So I'm going to come into my admin panel. And so this is where I wanted to make note for everybody that, you will have to have access to the admin panel within your ProLinkHFA implementation to be able to create an actual custom data view. Okay, so I click on my data views menu option here. And normally what I see when I do this, let me take off this filter that I have. I just see a list of all the data views that exist in the system. And this is where, like if you ask your administrator to, change the name of a column in a data view, or if you ask your administrator to add like sum and group on one of the data views that has an amount field. This is where your administrator comes into ProLinkHFA and affects those changes for you, okay? So to access my actual custom data views, they're always going to have a prefix of RPT on them. And so that's why I did a contains, that works. That's why I have that filtered down to that, just so I can see our examples. So again, you kind of see the same list roughly of what you see in the custom data views. There can be custom data views here that are in a state that are not published into the actual custom data views via the data view panel. We don't have a lot of time to get into those super fine details today, but that will be included in some training that we'll be coming out with here shortly. But to create an actual custom data view, let's go through an example of that. So you can see that my new button in my top toolbar is enabled. So I click new, and I'm going to get an edit screen that looks, you know, similar to the edit screens I see around ProLinkHFA. And so I'll just make, I've got a sample here that we can do. I'm going to do funding sources, funding withdraw total is the example that I have. I need to give a page title. That's what I see in my listing. Now for my view name, I can just call it the same thing. I like to do it without spaces and try not to destroy the naming of it. I don't have to give a view description, but I will. And then I'm going to do something a little bit fancy. Danny, don't look at what I'm doing because this is a special ProLink only function. I can say skip over my ETL and go straight to live. So you all won't be able to do that because you're not ProLink, but because I'm ProLink, theoretically, I know what I'm doing. So there's that. Anyways, I can go ahead, give that naming, and then I'm going to grab. So what I did here, and let me grab this so that I can show you guys. I went into the database and I grabbed the dev deal funding data view from out of the database. Okay, so that's what I did. So that's what I'm pasting in here. So this is the SQL statement. And all this thing is doing is saying, select all these fields from this view that exists already in the database, because that's what's used in a regular data view. Okay, so I've done that. So now I'm basically recreating my dev deal funding data view. Okay, but in addition to that, I want to know with each of these fundings that are in a deal, I want to know what's the total dispersed draws per that funding source per deal. So I need that's another field that I need added into this view. So I looked into my draws data view and I found that field that I need, and I'm paste that in here at the bottom, is called this total dispersed field, right? So now I've got the field, but then I've got to hook myself up to my draws view. So I went into the database and I got a hold of that view, and then I'm adding a left join onto that view. Now I know this is kind of technical, guys, and I apologize, but this really is kind of what this thing is, right? So that's that. So now I'm going to get this deal funding. I'm going to do a save with now that draws total field included. Okay, so you can see I did a save. I'm going to do a little validate test and save so I don't blow my database out of the water. So I'm going to go ahead and click that button. And I'm going to see that as I scroll down, if I've got valid SQL that's not wrong, super wrong, I'll see some data returned. So I say, okay, it seems like I'm okay here. So now I'm going to change my status to publish, because as it stands right now, if I go look in my custom data views, I don't see this view yet available to me because I haven't published it yet. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and set my status to published and do a quick little save. Then I'll go back to my custom data views and we'll be able to look at this data view. So now I'm opening back up my data views panel, hopping into my custom data views.
Kelly, can you explain the accessibility of these custom data views? Like when you hit publish, are they published to everybody or is it only for your viewing? Can you explain that?
It is when you hit that publish in that data views creation screen, that is available to everybody. Once you get to that step, that is available to everybody. Okay. And remember that you're within the admin panel here, right? So this is not your everyday user can be in here creating these custom data views, right? They've got to have the security privileges to get into the admin panel and then also to work specifically on data views, right? Because if you think about your admin panel, you have a separation of duties, right? You have some people that have admin panel access, but all they work on is taking care of users and security roles. They aren't going to have access to creating data views and the like. So just kind of like think through about, it's not just every person in your agency who's going to have the access to be in here creating, data views galore. It's quite secure. And you won't have 50 gajillion data views showing up out of nowhere. So, just keep that in the back of your mind. But, also too, it's important to think about business users need a mechanism to be able to request, these data views that they're going to want, right? Danny and Susan both have kind of talked about those requests coming in, right, from their business users. So, it's definitely a little bit of process that everybody's going to kind of have to think about. How can I, kind of in an efficient, organized way, take in these requests so that I'm, producing these different custom data views that my business users are looking for. Okay. So I'll just pop in here real quick and click into this data view that I created. I just wanted to show an example there. Now, one thing that I want to highlight here, let me go into my view manager. You saw those oodles and oodles of fields, right, that I included in that custom data view. When you get the default view, you just get the first 10 fields. Then your users can kind of come in and say, okay, you know what? Here's what I really need in the reporting that I need. I need a fiscal year and I need a loan product type. And, I want that total dispersed amount. That's what I was really going for in this whole thing, right? So I can create that view, give it a little name, just like I do in my data views. And I'll do a save and close there. And then my data view there, my custom view, I can choose that view. Then I see, okay, there's my information with the dispersed amount of those different draws. Okay. So I know that that's pretty quick and dirty. And I think, Bree, I'm over a little bit. Yes.
Just a little bit. I think it's my fault probably at the very beginning. So thank you guys for holding out. I'll wrap up and we'll let you guys go here. So thank you, Kelly. Guys, I know that's a lot to take in and probably you're wanting more examples and more of a training, and we're happy to provide that at a later date. So hopefully this has piqued your interest enough to reach out to us and see how we might be able to get this feature in place for you and take advantage of it. For our next webinar coming up in July, we're going to be doing tips and tricks on optimizing your custom reporting within ProLink HFA. So it's kind of part 2 to what we're discussing here. This is a little bit of a prequel. Then after the holiday, typically this would have landed, I think, the week of 4th of July. So we're pushing it to July 12th, which is the following Wednesday at 3 p.m. Eastern time. And we hope we see you there. Hopefully we get some other attendees or clients to participate in that one with us. And we'll hopefully share some more examples, including this feature and other thoughts that we have around that custom reporting. Susan and Danny, thank you so much. And obviously, Kelly, always thank you for your participation in this. I think that you probably gave a lot of good thoughts and inspired some of the attendees today. So thank you. We appreciate it. Thank you to everyone who's been here with us and for the overage. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Thank you.